Warning, the following podcast is brought to you by dads who can barely remember where they put their car keys. Welcome to the All Pro Dad Podcast.
Hey, welcome to the All Pro Dad Podcast. I'm Ted Lowe, and I'm joined today by Bobby Lewis.
Hey, man.
BJ Foster.
Hey, Ted.
So we're all married. How long have you guys been married?
30 years.
30?
19.
19? Okay, I'm 16 years. So we've been married for a little while. We all have multiple kids. I know sometimes it's hard to get away and have like time to yourself with your wife. But maybe the best example of kids ruining time with your wife was our 10-year anniversary. So a couple years ago, I had planned out this whole thing. My wife and I were going to go to this little golf resort. We were going to stay the night there. We're going to play golf one day. We're going to go to the spa, just totally relax. Grandma's watching the kids. It's just us for like 2 or 3 days. And this had been a long time coming because, you know, you get busy. You got kids. They got things to do. You're taking them to soccer practice. You're doing band stuff.
You have no money.
No money. Yeah, you got stuff going on. It took a lot of time and attention to plan this 10th anniversary. I mean, I went back and got like a replica of the wedding cake made, like a tiny version. I did a lot of work and it all went to crap because none of it paid out. The plans that we had for grandma watching the kids fell through. The backup plan fell through. And so basically we're going to this nice like romantic getaway and there's kids hanging out with us the whole time. And so instead of doing the spa, instead of doing the golf, instead of having the like romantic dinner, we went to the kiddie pool and we watched the kids swim for like 3 days. And I was like,
did they eat your cake?
Well, that was the worst part is that why I wanted the cake to be an exact replica. So I asked the bakery to make it. I showed them a picture. I wanted like the stripes on the cake. They gave me polka dots. I wanted the 2-tier. They gave me 1 tier. I wanted the number 10. They got the number 10 right, but the color of the icing was wrong. I was like, nothing is going right. I just wanted time with my wife.
Essentially, you just had a cake.
Yeah, we had a little round cake. I was like, this looks nothing like what I ordered. And then the kids are like, hey, I peed in the pool. I'm like, gosh, like nothing is going right. Can we just I just wanted time with my wife. And it hit me like, you signed up for this adventure with these kids and it's fun and there's awesome parts of being a dad, but it also sometimes gets in the way of being a great husband because you just got all these competing interests and they're tug of war pulling on you all the time. And I will not forget. It's a funny story now because we're 6 years removed. My wife and I joke about the cake. We're like, remember the cake was the best part of the weekend. But you know, it's true. Like, stuff gets in the way of being a good husband when you've got kids to take care of all the time. Which makes me think, do you guys have a kids got in the way moment?
Yeah, I think we can all relate to the knock on the door. And you're like, I have so little choice. Like, and go away. You know, it's the
just
knock
need 5
on the
minutes,
door,
right?
Or you've planned it out. You know when special time is coming,
Please.
And then so and so gets sick, or they want to get into the bed, and just all those things. I think that's often been the most frustrating thing as far as kids threatening my marriage. Go away.
So for those of you, so Ted's talking about sex.
Very subtle.
Yeah.
He won't say it, but he's talking about sex. Yeah, we like my son has walked in on us twice. And the first time
Recently?
Tuesday?
It was like, Tuesday. No, it was like, people were like, why don't you lock the door? Like we moved into a new house and I thought I was locking the door, but the lock is kind of weird.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes it locks, sometimes it doesn't, kind of a thing. You have to do a special thing with the latch and make sure that it's locked. But it was like New Year's Eve, it's like we're well into 2:00 in the morning and all of a sudden he just bursts into the room.
Gosh.
And you think you're safe at 2 a.m.
Yeah,
right?
no kidding.
And we're like, I
haven't been awake at 2 a.m. in 20 years. That's amazing. You were even awake.
Well, and so, he's like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. He closes the door and he's like, I'll come back later. And I'm like, no, don't come back at all.
Don't come back.
Never come back again. He like, and then it was like, a little while later, again, like we couldn't, this wasn't the same night. I mean, it was like maybe a couple months later or whatever. And again, lock, weird kind of a thing. And then he opens the door and he's like, hey, what are you guys doing? Like, I'm like, get out, go away and don't come back again.
Well, if you want to keep them out, like I told my daughter one time, she is like a sitcom character. She'll just bust in the room at all times it's always fanfare. Like in our bedroom and in our bathroom, whatever, she'll just show up. And I told her one day, I said, sweetheart, one of these days you're going to bust in and you're going to wish you hadn't.
Regret
And
it.
you can just see her wheels turning. She goes, don't do that. Don't talk. That's the grossest thing ever. How do you think you got here?
Yeah. I could one up all of you, but I won't. It reminded me, you said the lock wasn't working. It reminded me of that episode of Modern Family. I don't know if you've seen the show where the kids walk in on mom and dad. It was Sunday morning, whatever it was. And the kid, like, get out. And so the kids, thinking they're smart, gift the parents a deadbolt for their door. They're like, we'll never have this happen again. But the deadbolt was so loud that when they went, the kids are like, oh no, now we know. They didn't even have to be in the room and they knew. So yeah, that's funny. This is just one example of kids getting in the way sometimes.
Please one up. Go ahead.
No, I don't want to. No.
Do it.
BJ, you had the opportunity to share your story. Ted, you've had a similar instance. My son, 3 years old, walks in the door and instead of just watching from the door, decided to like get in bed and sit on me. Sit on me. And I was like, what do I do? Like, you've got to leave.
You compliment his balance.
No, I was like, you've got to go. This is the worst thing that's ever happened in my whole life. And you have
the
to
amount
go
of
away.
discernment that I'm having
so
right now
bad.
is beyond
Like,
impressive.
you gotta go and see. I was like, please leave. And he goes, okay. And he walks out. And I was like, there's really no recovering from this. I don't know what to do. It's so bad.
Oh.
And I was like, I can't look at you, son, ever again in the same way. But maybe one day I'll tell that story. Maybe like his rehearsal dinner or something like that. You know, like, guess what, son?
There it is.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to cost
the
you
one,
thousands in counseling later.
Oh, Lord.
Gosh.
Yeah. All right.
Here's a question. I was about to say serious question, but this is impossible at this point. But the question, how did your marriage change once you had kids?
Well, like number one, I kind of feel like the amount of time you have disappears by 90%.
No kidding.
It's I kind of think, I mean, can you even think back to what you did before you had kids?
I don't remember.
As they're moving out, I can really remember. It's awesome.
It was great.
Yeah.
You did whatever. You did whatever.
Yeah.
And then when you have multiple kids, then it disappears by 99%. I mean, then it's like all your time is gone. Like I will never forget watching Marley and me the first time. And when they have a second child, it's like their whole life just turns into absolute, utter chaos.
Yeah, because now they can go in opposite directions, right?
Yeah.
One goes that way, one goes that way. Yeah, it's hard.
Well, you're playing man on man, and like you have multiple kids. You're constantly, you got one parent with this kid, and now you're with this one, and you never get a moment.
Yeah,
I mean, you barely get a moment when you have one. I'm not saying that, but when you have multiple kids, it's like forget it. It's all gone.
I remember we were at the fair, and when we, the kids were little, with 2 boys and a little girl. And so she's in a carrier. And I remember thinking it was always, you take him and you take him. And it was all of a sudden like, who's got 2?
Right.
Well, I stay home with them all day. So you've got 2.
Yeah.
This is a real quick math.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's the neediness when they're little. If their kids are a little bit older, maybe their needs are, not quite so repressive. But when they're tiny, you got to do everything for them. You got to tie their shoes. You got to change a diaper. You got to make sure they have the right clothes. You need extra clothes. Like you're doing all these things. So before you have kids, you're like, I'm just taking care of me. My wife, she can do whatever she wants to do. She can dress herself. She can, grab what she wants when we leave the house. When you have kids, you are constantly like thinking 8 steps ahead to make sure that just the trip to the park goes well. You know what I mean? And then you add 2 kids and now you're 16 steps ahead. And then you add another kid and it's just so many things. They're so very needy. And that's good because, we're capable and we're helping them. But gosh, it's a lot,
It is. It's a lot. And so this is why our big question of the week is, what threats does parenting present to your marriage? We're going to talk about the threats, but also how to avoid said threats, right? Yeah. So this is not just
get a better
here's
lock
the bad
for your
news,
door.
see you next week. Okay.
That's the number one thing to take away. Lock your door better. Get 7 deadbolts for your door.
A deadbolt.
Yeah.
A deadbolt.
All right. What's the first threat? Let's get back on
the
track.
first one is exhaustion. And Bobby, you've already alluded to this. It's like when they're little, I mean, you're just not sleeping, you're just exhausted. You're like the Walking Dead at that point. And so, and our poor wives, I mean, they just, any way you slice it, they have a bigger load when there's a newborn. Just everything shifts a priority, as well it should, but you're just so physically exhausted. I saw this photo the other day of, we're flipping through photos, and there's a picture of me on the couch and I've got the two boys under me. One of them's got a pacifier in his mouth. I'm a solid 15, 20 pounds heavier. I was bloated and exhausted, but I just remember thinking, you couldn't go exercise at that point. Mm-hmm. You were eating your feelings right there. But it was also this look of, boy, I love these boys. So it's this mix, but it's really tough on a marriage. You're just surviving. And then when kids get older, there's just so much emotional, and you're still physical, you're still driving them everywhere a lot, but it's this emotional exhaustion that, our marriages take emotion, and kids are getting a lot of that, right?
Yeah, I particularly remember kind of feeling that exhaustion. I will never forget kind of being in my son's crib with him. Like when he moved to a toddler bed, but it still had the railing, so it kind of
it's kind of the reverse of Bobby's story.
It was like
you
climbed in his bed,
and then when I had a little bit of hair left, and it was like all over the place. And there's a picture of that. When you're exhausted, you just become more stressed. You get more anxiety. I think you get more short tempered, and you get that way with each other. Like I mentioned, Marley and me. I'll never forget when they had two kids, they started to fight more. And that was so much our story. Like when we had two kids, we just were snapping at each other. Like we've never fought more than that period of life. And there's a scene in the movie where Owen Wilson pulls up to the house, and he can see inside the house, and it's just chaos. It's absolute chaos. And his wife is mad. And she can see she's mad inside the house, and he just doesn't want to get out of the car. And he's like, and I remember feeling that, pulling up to the house and going, I don't want to go inside.
Right.
And so these little kind of picking, you can really start to, you're just exhausted and you're stressed, and you just, you pick at each other.
Right. Oh, it's so true. It's so true.
And, you're just sort of less enthusiastic, less upbeat. And you can have just less energy for each other and for sex even. I mean, I never had that problem.
Yeah.
My poor wife is like, you never had that problem. I would have loved to.
She's going to go in there by herself and deadbolt the door with you on the outside. Yeah.
You talk about exhaustion. I think it makes it tricky when you have kids who are spread out in age. And if you've got kids, you got 3 kids under 5, you got your own sort of exhaustion, right? Like you're just going all the time, making sure everyone's okay. For us, they're spread out. So we've got 6, 10, and 14. And that introduces a different kind of exhaustion because their bedtimes are all different. And so the youngest, we're trying to get her in bed earlier. The middle one is like, well, I should be able to stay up. I'm older than her. And so he stays up a little later. And then our 14-year-old's like, I'm going to stay up later than you. So like, it's hard. Like if you're just trying to find some sort of uniformity in your home, and that's hard to, find time with your wife, because just because one of them went to bed doesn't mean the other 2 are going to ignore you. Or just because the second one went to bed doesn't mean the third one ignores you. Like there's these waves of responsibility in parenting, and all of that cuts into one-on-one time with your wife,
Absolutely. So what do we do, dads? What do we do about that? I think, and this is, people are throwing things at us in just a moment, mentally, but scheduled date nights. And date nights do not have to always be out of the house. And sometimes they last 10 minutes. But just having, we call it escape hatch, which was our master bedroom closet. But you've got to put things on the calendar, right? You've got it, and talk about that, not when you're so angry, like going, okay, when do we need to do this? The other thing, and when I speak to married couples, I'll say, schedule sex. And ultimately, there's always somebody going, oh, that kills the spontaneity. And I'm all like, I'd rather be sexually active than spontaneous. Like, just call me Mr. Boring.
I think this is a great practice, and we've been doing it ourselves. Every Thursday night is date night for my wife and I. And my kids know this now. So we don't necessarily go out to 5-star restaurant every Thursday. Sometimes we go to the back porch and we just have a little fire pit going and we sit out there for half an hour. But it's every Thursday. It's great for your marriage to have consistent time, but also it's good for your kids to know, like, mommy and daddy prioritize this relationship even above you. And so maybe that's hard for them to hear sometimes, but it's true. I want to make sure that I have carved out time. And so it's every Thursday for us. And it, sometimes is longer than others. We have the added benefit of having an older child who can be home with the younger kids. Not everyone's going to have to do that. It may be a financial barrier for you sometimes to say, I got to hire a babysitter every week to go do this. If that's the case, maybe do it every other week, but find a way to carve out that time, because your relationship with your wife is very, very important. It's foundational in your home, and your kids are going to benefit if you spend time with your wife. So prioritize that. Put it on the calendar.
And it's a beautiful day when you realize I can leave the younger kids with the older kid.
If you're a guy who's got 3 kids who are 8 and under, you're like, dude, I can't break away. Like, I can't afford to hire a babysitter. Find a trusted neighbor, find a friend from church or whatever you do. Like, prioritize that time, because you got to recognize these kids, they're a beautiful gift. They're a wonderful part of your life. But you have to have time away from them to fill your cup up. You got to be connected with your wife. And so do whatever you have to do to kind of prioritize that time. It's a very real threat to marriage to not get time away.
Yeah.
Well, I love that you guys said, because I think it's great to prioritize date night. But a lot of times, particularly when our kids were young, we really struggled financially and didn't have the money to pay a babysitter. And fortunately, we had really sweet people that would be like, hey, I'll watch your kids for free. Our producer Haley being one of them. And so if you don't have that, but we'd put the kids down and we would have times, whether it be outside with a fire pit or, by the, just kind of us watching a movie or whatever it is, having that intentional time, I think is fantastic.
Well, and Bob, you've mentioned it, and you've just mentioned it again, BJ, and I think that's something for all dads is to have and stick with consistent bedtimes. I had a huge mentor in my life, and he said one of the most important things you can do for your marriage is have early bedtimes for your kids. So our kids get off the bus at 3:30, and we're like, go to bed. Just kidding. They got so much
Get your pajamas on.
Go. What are you doing? You're killing us. But it's just hold to those. Make that, we talk a lot about how to make bedtime fun, but you're like, make it fun, but make it like, this is how this works. Number 2 threat is it creates new arenas for conflict. Just when you needed one more topic, right? But it creates these new arenas, for conflict. It's just new things. And it's their first time at raising a human. It's your first time at raising a human, and they're hitting different parts of you, and there's different responsibilities, and there's just greater chance for conflict there. So did you guys fight more before you had kids or more after you have kids?
More after. I mean, there was one period of time, which, so I call it the dark ages in another episode. It's when my kids were, my daughter was a newborn. My son was a year and a half, maybe 2, or close to being 2, both in diapers, just exhaustion. Everything is kind of setting on. It was that period that we fought more than any other. And I did something that I never thought I would ever do, which is we got into a fight so bad one night. I walked out and slammed the door and got in the car and started driving.
Something moms could never do, right?
Well, I just kind of thought I would never do this.
Like, who am I?
Like, I'm not. And then I was driving around and I'm like, I guess I go to a bar now, like, because I kind of was just kind of like,
next scene,
isn't this what guys do? They go to a bar and they talk to the bartender. You know,
like start smoking.
And so I was driving around thinking that, and I was like, why would I ever do that? Like, first of all, I don't drink alcohol at all. So what am I going to do? Have a Shirley Temple and talk to this, And so
wouldn't that be a scene?
I was like, why would I want to go do that when I can go home and work it out with her? Yeah. And so I drove home and, worked it out. But it was definitely that period. It's not like we never fought before. We haven't fought since. But during that period of the kids in diapers, both kids in diapers, I just feel like we were so stressed out. We fought more, and we were so tired. We fought more during that time than any other.
I feel like one of the biggest things that happens too is when you're not talking as much, you don't know full context of what's going around something. So one example what we heard was, a husband sees a Amazon bill for $200 and immediately, how could you do this? And just goes after, and before it's over with, she's like, I spent that on school supplies and we're getting reimbursed. And so it's just this context, and we have less empathy when there's less context. You're fighting about not really what you're fighting about.
All right, so here's the problem when you're fighting, no matter what you're fighting about. When you and your wife are, butting heads a little bit, you are thinking me, not we. We is what we should be thinking as a husband, because you're in this together. You and your wife, you're on a team forever. Whether you're upset about your wife, or you're upset about your kids, you're upset about your job, whatever, it's we, it's not me. We always end up thinking me first when we're fighting. That's a problem. Your wife's not your opponent. She's on your team. And then you're letting conflict drive your attitude. Never good. You want unity in your home. And to do that, you have to lead. You got to help, understand that this conflict may not be really about the dishwasher. And the kids are introducing all that conflict sometimes. And so you have to kind of work through that, thinking we, not me. It's not about you. It's about both of you together.
Which is very hard, by the way, in the moment. I mean, when your emotions are running like big time high, and we had a marriage counselor kind of say to us in the very beginning, like, when you're moving away from each other, you can't hear one another. So like taking the moment right in that, thinking, we, not me, and okay, I'm going to change direction and go back, even though I don't want to, so that I hear the other person, so that we can be we.
Yeah. Well, and we interviewed Dr. Chenwei Williams, and she was talking about what they found, the power of a pause. And she talks about a 90-second pause, but she also talked about like a 10-second pause, and just the difference that makes, just a few deep breaths. So what do we do, dads? What do we do to make this better and not let marriage be constantly threatened as parents? It's really easy to start living like roommates, like passing ships in the night. And all you start talking about is whose turn is it to wipe something or somebody. It's those things. And it's so easy to stay in roommate mode instead of spouse mode.
Yeah, this is us Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays right now. Those days of the week are super hectic. The evenings are very crowded with events and activities, and they're regularly scheduled things. So we know every week when we start, Tuesday night, we're not going to see each other very much. Wednesday, we're not going to see each other. So that's why we made Thursday night our date night, because we're coming back together and we know for sure that little pocket of time is protected, because it comes on the heels of a lot of stuff going on. And I don't know if it's a red flag for us. We're kind of analyzing our family calendar right now. I don't know if we need to cut stuff out, because they're all good things that we're doing, and we're taking kids here, and we're doing youth group thing, and we're doing the practice. Like, we're doing fun things, but it's at least a yellow flag. And I'm aware of the fact that those nights, those Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you're kind of roommate nights, and I don't love it.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things for us and this will get some pushback, but for us, we made the decision as a family that the kids could only be in one activity at a time. Because when you've got, at the time we had 3, and we got a lot of pushback with that, but it turned out none of my children are going to make a living from being an athlete or a dancer or in some really odd play. So it works out, but it was something that gave us a little bit of space. Even when you've got 3 and they're all in something, it's enough. It's enough. And it was not only good for Nancy and I, it was good for our whole family, even for us to be together as a family.
I'll give you no pushback on any of that, because I think that's fantastic.
Well,
yeah.
And who's telling us to keep that in check? Like, there's nowhere naturally in culture or with people to go, hey, I've noticed your kid's in 3 activities. Like, no one's doing that. We wear busyness as a badge. And so
and they like it. Like, my kids like the Tuesday night events. They like the Wednesday. They're enjoying themselves. So I want to provide good things for my kids, but that becomes a threat to your marriage sometimes when your marriage is now taking a back seat to your kids' happiness.
That's good.
And our kids' happiness is important. I'm not saying it isn't. We shouldn't just usher our kids through the 18 years of life miserably. Like, we want them to enjoy spending time in our homes, but they're not going to be in our homes forever. My wife's going to be in my house for decades after they're gone. Hopefully, God willing, she's going to live a long time. I'm going to live a long time. We will have that, one-on-one time together. It's our job to take care of kids now, but it's not our top priority. Our marriage, at least in my house, is my top priority. And I don't want to have anything get in the way of that relationship being super strong once those kids are gone. And I know that I'm years away from all of them being gone, but I'm planning for it today.
Well, it kind of, when I'm thinking about your week, it's like almost like you're holding your breath Monday through Wednesday.
Yeah. He's holding it now.
And then you're holding it. Well, it's Monday, and and then it's like you're breathing again on Thursday. I mean, but a relationship. I mean, it's kind of like there are people that will go without Thursday.
Yeah.
And then you're holding your breath, and you're going to die that way. Like, you don't connect with one another. You end up disconnected. Like, you're either coming together or you're fading away. There's rarely that in between where you're just sort of here. It's like you're either connecting or you're disconnecting.
It is. And it's that current, right? I mean, we've all been at the ocean. You get out there and you're just playing around and you look up and you're 3 hotels down. And you're like, what happened? And I think that can happen with kids in business. We're just like, no one's doing anything with a bad heart, right? It can happen. But Bobby, what you're talking about is being lifeguards of this thing, to say, wait a minute, let's make sure we're checking the heart and we're checking our schedule. And it is not easy. It is not easy.
Well, I think in the midst of this, I just want to add one more thing. I think there is a threat in this that it's not even so much like the relationship can die if you don't give it breath, if you don't give it life.
Absolutely.
So this just happened. We have a friend of ours. We just met them, saying, how are you doing? How are things? She goes, oh, I got divorced. I'm like, what? Your kids are like 28 years old. You're like, oh yeah, well, we just realized that we didn't know each other anymore. I was like, you were married 30 something years. And like, well, we're not anymore. I was like, oh my gosh, snuck up on them.
Yeah. So that's why it's so important to do a Thursday night or whatever. But then there's this other thing of just settling for something less than great. Like that you have an opportunity to infuse life, make this relationship great, make it something terrific. And a lot of people are like, well, this is as good as it gets. That's why I love that scene in As Good where Jack Nicholson is like, maybe for people like us, this is as good as it gets. And I'll never, and my wife and I, we were sitting in marriage counseling. This is when we first got married. And we were talking about like she does this dysfunctional thing and I do this and whatever. And the way we were talking, the marriage counselor just goes, well, maybe that's as good as it gets for you guys. And I was like, well, I don't want that. And he's like, well, thank God you said that.
Yeah, good.
He's like, because the way that you guys are talking, you're like, meh. Yeah, it just sounded to me like you were just wanted to live with it.
Yeah.
And he's like, and you don't have to live that way.
No.
You do not have to live that way where things are less than great.
No, and the thing is, when it's so hard, the less it takes to connect sometimes. And the bar's so low. I remember when we went away, just the two of us for the first time when our 2 kids were little, we pulled it to the gas station and we realized simultaneously that we both get to walk in together and not sit in the car with kids. And it was like, we skipped in there like school children. You're just like, whoa. Or we would go on a vacation 20 minutes down the road and stay in a Hampton Inn. And it was like we were in Maui. And so it's just, those little things matter. And dads, some other things, little things that really, really matter. And this is just part of everyday life. Every couple's got communication. Every couple's talking about doing that next thing and whose turn it is. How we, our tone of voice in those moments, our level of patience, our level of space and grace, our words are so huge. And it's not just when we're talking about roommate stuff. This is the opportunity to send a text throughout the day. How you doing? Are you surviving? Our love notes are sarcastic memes. So that's what we keep our marriage alive with, is sarcasm. But it's those things of, I'm thinking about you. I'm here with you. And so it's just those important things, just to find ways to celebrate during the day and catch them doing something great. You're a great mom. look at you go. This is new for you, and I don't know what I'm doing, but you look like you do. It's just those catching them. We get so off balance with our information that we stop the affirmation. And so it's just our words are so important. Another threat is misordering priorities.
Yeah.
We're working hard to provide. A lot of our wives are also working hard to provide, and we're doing it for the family. Or we're taking them to baseball practice. Get in the car, hurry up. And you're like, why are we doing baseball? Because I want you to be well-rounded, as I'm screaming you all the way there. So we lose our priorities of why we're doing what we're doing. And a lot of times we are saying, hey, I'm working to do this. I'm trying to be a good dad. And marriage, there's nobody sending us a marriage bill, right? There's no marriage meeting that's scheduled. And so we have to build in that accountability. But it can be, our priorities can get really, really off. We can forget that one day, probably faster than we want it to be true, we're going to be irrelevant at work. And how many times have you left a job and they never called you again? Like, it's not like, hey, I was just checking in. Like, no, they've replaced you and moved on. And so how many times do we put our priorities towards jobs? And the thing, that's really easy to do when your kids are little or when you're struggling with your spouse, because you can go and go, I get kudos here. I get to shower before I go there. I mean, it's a different environment. You feel more successful sometimes. And so, but just keeping those priorities balanced.
I used to joke around a little bit because I worked in TV for a long time. And one thing that was always, grounding for me, I was talking to a buddy and he's like, to the TV station, you're a white guy with brown hair. There's plenty of you. He's like, but at home, you're daddy. At home, you're husband. Like, those can't be replaced. Nobody can stand up in your house and be daddy, and nobody can stand up in your house and be husband. That's your role, and it should be your top priority. You're not replaceable there. You're definitely replaceable at your job. Not to diminish jobs. They're great, and we should all work hard and do our best, but get your priorities right.
Yeah, I think, when your priorities aren't right, when you're out of alignment, you end up taking your wife for granted. You can focus on the kids too much. You can focus on work too much. Even if your intentions can be really good. Your intentions can be, I want to provide for the family, so you work a lot. Your intentions can be, I want to connect with the kids, so you just focus on the kids day in and day out, or do they just have to be somewhere? But ultimately, you miss the day in and day out connection with your wife. You start to take her for granted. You don't spend the time there. And there's just this gradual distancing that can happen, where you run into a situation where, I've seen a ton of situations like this, and it shocks me every time to hear about a couple that's been married for 30 years that gets divorced. And it's like the kids grow up, they head out, and then they don't have anything in common anymore. They haven't spent the time together. And at bare minimum, you miss opportunities to be together. You miss opportunities like just going to dinner and the feeling that you both had.
Oh.
And that's the fact that it's such a mundane dinner, but that it's one of your memories forever, right, is like, gosh, I remember how we both felt in that moment. You miss those opportunities, and gradually, when you're not connecting, again, I said it before, you're disconnecting, and you can even just start to harbor bitterness and, all these other things as you start to move apart.
Initially I thought threat, that's kind of a harsh word, right? Like, threat sounds like an imminent danger, like it's a big deal. But the more and more I hear you guys talk, and the more we discuss this, threat is the perfect word. There's cute little threats called kids. Like, they're fun and we enjoy them. But there's also like you said, like good intention threats, but they're all opposed to you flourishing in your relationship if you don't prioritize it. Threat, I think, is the right word. I'm realizing that the longer we talk, threat's right.
Right. Well, and you were talking about, BJ, about people becoming empty nesters, and they're saying, I don't know you. Like, they don't know each other. And you think about what a kid has seen throughout that process of two people who don't continue to prioritize their relationship or know each other, our kids in many ways are going to have a marriage that looks like ours. And so I think we pause and say, hey, we're preparing them for life with education and with all these activities, but are we preparing them to be good spouses, right? Are we preparing them for that? So nobody wins in that equation. But then you go, what's the difference between the couple who becomes empty nesters and they're like, yes, and the ones that are like, I want out and I'm just sticking by for the kids to graduate. I mean, how many times does that happen? A kid goes to college and their parents go, we're all done, which is absolutely the absolute wrong time. Not there's ever a good time, but what's the difference? And it is continuing to get to know each other. And because you know each other, you know how to love somebody, right? You don't know how to love somebody you don't know. So dads, what can we do? It's one of those things, and I'll say this over and over, one of the best gifts that dads can give their kids is loving their mom. Mm-hmm. Now, some of you single dads, I get, you go, well, this doesn't exactly apply to me, but it is such a gift to our kids when they see us cherish and love their mom. There is a safety there that is so powerful.
There was I love that. There was a guy who was a mentor of mine, and we watched just how he and his wife raised their kids. They have 5 kids. All the kids are wonderful. Just there's not a rebel in any of them, and they all care for people really well, all 5 of them. And so I went to him, and my wife and I went to him and said, hey, can you do a parenting class? Because my wife, Elizabeth was pregnant, and he said, yeah, there have been a number of people that have asked us. So they gathered a bunch of us together and had a bunch of stuff to say. But one of the things he said was, when you get home, hug one another. Let that be the first thing that you do. And he said, watch what happens with the kids. Because the kids, and he said, don't say anything to them, just go and hug and see what happens. And he goes, the kids will become a part of the hug. And every single time we did it, the kids came running from other places and all came to be a part of this hug. Our dog does it as well. And even, I mean, my kids are teenagers now, and even now they'll sometimes, there'll be a hug and, all of a sudden, and they do it sarcastically. I think, they're like,
but they're making fun, but
but they want to be a part of that. And so anyway, I just always think of that the connection between you and your wife, you and your spouse is the most important.
What a beautiful scene.
Yeah.
I'm picturing it in your home. Like how cool that is.
We'll try it tonight.
The way I look at it is my kids probably be married one day. They've talked about that. In fact, the other day, my wife was saying, hey, son, do you think you'll be married? And he goes, yeah, I'll be married, but I'm not kissing her. I was like, okay, I bet you'll change your mind. But like, that's in their mind. Like at some point they may be married. And I know they're going to do one of 2 things. They're either going to emulate what we do or eliminate what we did. And I don't know how it's going to play out for them. We've still got a lot more years when they're in our home before they go on to get married. But my prayer, my hope is that they emulate me more than they try to eliminate the stuff that I did. I don't want them to say, Dad, he screwed up on all this stuff. He got it totally wrong. I'm going to do my own thing because his marriage was garbage. I want them to say, Dad's marriage was so inspirational. He loved Mom so well that he was able to push off all these threats and become a good husband day after day, better than yesterday, that I want to emulate him in every way. That's my hope. We'll see how that works out because they're years away from that. But, I pray that I'm doing things that are more worthy of emulation than elimination.
That is very author, book speaker of you.
Yeah.
Alliteration.
Chapter 7.
Alliteration.
You like that? Thank
well
you.
done, man. I'm ripping that off right there. Another threat that parenting can have on your marriage is forgetting you're a teen.
This just happened yesterday. We were hanging out, swimming in the pool. Kids were having fun with Mom, but my son just kept like hanging on her. And she kind of looked at me and mouthed the words, he won't stop touching me. And I was like, okay. And that was the cue to like, she's touched out. Like this is becoming a problem. Yep. So I called him over and said, all right, hey, let's go play over here and swim together. And she just needed a break. Yeah. It's a small thing, but if you're able to take that off her plate, big deal.
Absolutely. So dads, what can we do? I think we've got to have these discussions about our disagreements in a time when we can be heard and not in the middle of it. When you're exhausting, don't that's not when to talk about it. Take a breath, talk about it then. I'm a part of a thing called For Us Marriage. We can put that link in the show notes, but I talk a lot about, focus on your us, not on you, and not even just on them, but what's going to work for us. Because there's going to be some things that don't work for you, but it's going to work for your us. There's some things I do that doesn't work for us. The ADHD, it's fun trail for her to get, I'm going to help him find the keys. And her line is, well, you can't be great at everything, which I'm going, you're being way more patient with me than I'm being with myself. And she would say the reverse of that for me is like that I kind of roll with, I don't want to call it neurotic cleanliness of our house, but neurotic clean. Our junk drawer has dividers, which I've tried to explain to her, makes it by its very essence no longer a junk drawer. But it's those things that say, hey, I'm not focused on me. I'm not even just focused on her. I'm focused on us. And we need to decide based on us, how are we going to raise kids together?
Yeah. So the pro move of the week, we give a pro move every single episode. It's a thing that you can go home and do today to help you as a parent, help you as a husband. Our pro move of this week is put your wife first this week. Plan a date, just schedule some time for the two of you. Remind her that she is your top priority.
That's good. You guys, as always, I learned something. I realized things are worse than I thought. No, I'm teasing. I do feel like when we understand how important it is, we take priority, and there's great hope in that, right?
Yeah,
just being intentional. Not something we get perfect at overnight, for sure. So thank you guys for hanging out with me.
For sure.
You guys, dads, if this has been a good discussion for you, or these podcasts are great, send it to a buddy. It will be helpful for them, and it helps other people to find the podcast. But most of all, we want to say thank you for listening. We know that you and your kids will be glad that you did.
Thanks again for listening to the All Pro Dad podcast. Behind every episode is our amazing team. Producer, Haley Mawat, audio and video editor, Buck Buchanan, and production coordinator, Corey Walliff. All Pro Dad is the fatherhood program of the nonprofit Family First. Along with our motherhood program, iMom, we exist to help you love your family well. So remember, if you have more questions than answers, then you're probably in the right place. See you next time.